What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Non-Gamers, where I introduce people to video game music who maybe haven't heard it in a long time or ever. In this particular case, I have fellow tenor extraordinaire, Dominic Armstrong. Dominic, how are you? You know, my middle name is Dominic.
Is that right?
Yeah.
My middle name is Michael.
Okay, well.
Yeah. When my mother introduced me to her family, they said another Dominic Michael, so I get it, yeah.
It's very religious names, Dominic and Michael. You know?
Sure. Well, we are a very Italian people.
Thank you so much for wanting to do this. I know we've played a little bit of catch up, but I'm excited because you were talking to me a little bit, but like, we'll call you a non-gamer, but you do have an obsessive love for Breath of the Wild. So I guess tell everybody the 90 seconds of who you are and get a little bit into like what makes you a non-gamer in your opinion.
Hi, my name is Dominic Armstrong. I am a tenor, thanks for the extraordinaire part, and I also serve as an associate professor at the University of South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. I started gaming when I was a kid. My stepfather introduced me on his IBM Mini, the Junior, with King's Quest and Space Quest and Police Quest, and me and my newly minted step siblings would all play the game together and try to figure out what wordings needed to be said to move the story along. And honestly, at that age, I was like, this is cool. I want to be a game designer. And then I realized how much math it took to get into computers. And I thought, I think I'm going to go back to singing because that seems easier. And we can talk about that if you want. And then when we got our Nintendo, I realized how little time I was going to have with the actual machine to get better. So I became a TV addict rather than a game addict. And now you might call me a YouTube addict, although, as I was mentioning, during the pandemic, Breath of the Wild sort of was my outdoor time.
I mean, I feel like that still counts you as a non-gamer, because, I mean, basically, you've never really played games, except for one game extensively. Like, how many hours do you think you actually ended up with in Breath of the Wild?
Oh, I am sure not as many as people would, even if they played a little bit better. I am a button masher. I will fully admit, I am a button masher. I'm like, what if I just hit as many buttons as fast as I can and see what happens? And those people that spend hours trying to figure out the proper technique, I am fascinated with learning how they do it, but I'm not good at finding out how to do it myself. I will take the moniker of non-gamer and wear it with pride. I've watched a lot of other people play games, and that's on YouTube also.
How versed would you say you're in the like music scape of video games?
Not as much. I mean, it's been fascinating watching your output. I mean, with the little bit that I have, just knowing how much you have made out, of your life out of finding the passion in that sort of vein. The most relationship I have with music and gaming is seeing the occasion, seeing on advertisements the occasional like symphonies going on tour with gaming stuff, or the end of Tar or something like that. So to be honest, I don't know much about it at all. So
cool.
So I'm fascinated to go through whatever you've got to show me and see what I can relate to it with what I already know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's certainly interesting too how Breath of the Wild is an interesting case, because I don't know if have you played or seen any of the other Zeldas?
A little bit, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like they tend to have much more melodic structure and much more, emphasis on like the storytelling through music. And it's not to say that Breath of the Wild doesn't, but as you know, it's mostly those beautiful piano licks, the wind, there's a lot of that, which I think some Zelda fans were kind of frustrated by that. And it's been interesting because this year, especially in 2026, I've been doing my own Zelda journey. Actually, I didn't grow up with a PlayStation. I didn't grow up with a Nintendo 6. Nathan, just fix that shit. Sorry, my bad. Nathan's my editor. He'll probably leave it in because he's an asshole.
I understand.
He's not actually an asshole. He's amazing. I grew up with a PlayStation, and so like I had an SNES, which was the first thing I got when we immigrated from Italy. My grandparents were like, here, have this Super Nintendo. It like destroyed my life. And now I am 38 years old. Still, well, actually it made my life infinitely better. But one of my mods shared like an image of they have this thing called the Analog 3D, which is basically like a way to play old school Nintendo 64 cartridges and like a modern HDMI. There's kind of like an emulation thing that happens, and there's like a bunch of like, but it's through like the cartridge itself, which is really cool. So like cool. I'm working my way through like OG, like this is Frank's copy of, this is Ocarina of Time, this is Majora's Mask.
Yeah, look at all that.
Isn't that shit's expensive, but it was kind of like, I've never gotten to do this, so let me like educate myself basically. Since
do you feel like an archaeologist when you play games like that?
It depends on the game. I mean, like some games, it's funny because some games you play and you're like, holy shit, like this is aged so poorly. But like then there's stuff like this where it's like it still holds up. And plus, when I was buying these particular versions, like here's this Paper Mario. Look how ancient this is.
Wow.
Like it's lived in, you know? Plus
Yeah.
you can tell it's not a fake, but also like this is Jonathan's copy of Paper Mario. Jonathan, thank you. We're running further and further away from physical media. There's something about like owning something that's like tactile, and maybe it takes up space and it's kind of a waste of space. But like, I don't know, like, it's just like it's just nice.
I couldn't agree with you more. I teach an opera survey class here at the university also. And yesterday I was getting into some discussions about why do we teach classical music when it's not really the American art form, and just looking back at history. And that's what you're doing right there, is you're looking back at history in an old time. And then if we think about what could end up becoming behind us, this thing of AI or whatever, what you have there is something that people will know is real, like you just said. Like live performance will be the thing that people know is real because it's right in front of you, right? And so that's what you have in your hand, and that's so cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I totally agree with you. Is the opera survey course like a greatest hits, sort of like you're going down and talking, is like music appreciation basically
for specific people? So it's mostly singers that are in my class, and then we do have 4 outside people that are there from instruments or composers, but we go from I make them memorize 1607 as the beginning because that's when Orfeo premiered. So we talk about 400 years of opera, and it's hard to you could do it in a multitude of ways. In my opinion, I'm like, I just want to make you aware of all this stuff, and then you're going to go curate yourself. But here are some curated YouTube lists, so your algorithm knows that you like this stuff, and maybe it'll start pumping more into your feed.
That's so cool. Obviously, I play a little bit of the YouTube dance because of algorithms and, it being my job and like finding, the patterns. And I try not to trend chase too much anymore because I did it for the first 4 years. And I mean, I enjoy hopping on something and feeling that sense of excitement for it, but also like it's not really a healthy way to produce. And thankfully, this non-gamer series has really like been like the linchpin and the sort of become the focal point of the channel, just because it's awesome being able to share music, right?
Right.
I totally hear you on like, hey, this is really interesting and this is really cool. And we don't have to get into the theory of it. We don't have to get into the analysis, but we can get into like what we like, what we don't like, celebrating our opinions, celebrating like what makes music. How do you feel about it? How do you connect to it? Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool that you get to teach that. I feel like that's such it's such a fun way to be like, yo, Verdi was awesome. Check out Rigoletto. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
It doesn't have to be more complicated.
Engage in your passions. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, so speaking of engaging in our passions, maybe I will engage you in a new passion here. I've brought a selection of songs that were picked by members of my community during my live stream. I have vetted these, and I think that they're interesting in different ways. I had Maestro White on recently. You've worked with him.
I saw. Yeah, I have. Yeah, for sure.
He's the GOAT, man. I love Maestro White.
Such a nice guy. And a great singer, and also a graduate of the University of South Carolina.
Is he really?
He is.
We sing the same repertoire, but like for the most part, I would say. But like one of my last gigs, actually the second to last gig I did was Tosca, and he was conducting, and it was just like,
that's what I did with him not that long ago.
Really?
In Baltimore, yeah.
Oh my God! One of the things that we didn't really get to talk about with him, but we can certainly talk about with us, is the fact that like conductors really can make you feel safe, and they can also make you feel unsafe.
And that they can do in multitudes of ways.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I feel like with tenors, like, well, actually, hang on. Let's put a pin in that. So we listen to some music and then we'll talk, because we could talk. I mean, people will watch, but we should. Yeah. We can spill the tea, because I've had Kevin Ray, of course, was I think a contemporary of yours at Curtis.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I love Kevin, and he's also extremely astute, and I know you're astute as well. But I'm going to start us with something not so astute. This is from a game from the N64 era called Conker's Bad Fur Day. Have you ever heard of this game?
Conker's Bad Fur Day. I remember somebody having this. I don't know if I ever played it.
You play as a squirrel and you shoot things and so on.
I vaguely remember this.
Well, there's a song in this sung by the great slop prano, I don't remember, called The Great Mighty Pooh. Oh. It really doesn't require an introduction, but it's a great primer for you.
Uh-oh.
Me. I am the great mighty Pooh, and I'm going to throw my shit at you. A huge supply of tish comes from my chocolate starfish. How about some scat, you little twat? Do you really think you'll survive in here? You don't seem to know which creek you're in. Sweet corn is the only thing that makes it through my rear. How do you think I keep this lovely grin? Now I'm really getting rather mad. You're like a niggly, tickly, shitty little tag nut. When I've knocked you out with all my bab, I'm going to take your head and ram it up my butt.
Your butt.
My butt.
Your butt.
That's right, my butt.
Ugh.
My butt. My butt! Ah, you cursed squirrel, look what you've done. I'm blushing. Oh, what a world. Who'd have thought a good little squirrel like you could destroy my beautiful clagginess? Oh, I'm going.
My goodness.
Yeah, so that's
What age range was this meant for?
Well, I suppose every generation of child is exposed to things that they probably shouldn't engage with, and like this was like this, or Grand Theft Auto 3, or Vice City.
Sure.
So
I mean, it's a very Leisure Suit Larry sort of situation.
he's a gamer. You know, Leisure Suit Larry. It's the most. You can't say you're not a gamer if you know Leisure Suit Larry, bro.
I told you the Sierra era. That was my time.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
No, that's true. Yeah. It's definitely like kind of like obviously he's wearing like the Neo Matrix outfit in this video, and like.
So, do you know who the singer was? Is there a
No, I have no
voiceover? Idea. Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure it was some voiceover actor that
has to have been,
sing,
but
yeah,
not bad. Definitely heard worse sort of classical style singing in those sorts of situations.
Obviously, it's a pastiche, but lyrically, like I don't actually think. Not that I would ever want to hear this live, but I actually think it would be hilarious to hear this live. But like, there's actually a recording of a live, like a French video game orchestra performing it live, and it's actually like really good.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it sort of strikes me like some Danny Elfman stuff, like Nightmare Before Christmas or something, where you could do that in concert, where it's like it's that same sort of vibe of what was that? What's that character in that thing with the oogie, like the oogie boogie? Yeah. I mean, it's a very oogie boogie sort of vibe to me.
Have you ever done like anything like this, like a commercial with opera or like anything of the sort?
No, but I was thinking about that when I was watching this video. When I did a project one time, a cover of mine actually ended up being the J.G. Wentworth tenor.
Yeah. Whoa.
He like left rehearsal early one day to go do that commercial.
Whoa.
And I was like, that's so cool. And then you see it all the time.
Yeah.
877 cash now.
877 cash no. Right. I mean, like, what's crazy is that like I used to balk at this, and I used to think it was like, I don't know, like below me or whatever, because we, I mean, you and I were trained at very prestigious institutions. That when I pivoted to voiceover, like I did a spot for TBS, like Sheldon and Leonard, two brilliant physicists, and like I
perfect,
did, like the weirdest stuff, Carnival Cruise, and
sure.
When I was doing it, I was kind of like, have I sold out? But then I was also like, you know what, fuck that. Like, this is great.
Yeah, and maybe that was, I mean, again, that may have been where we were both studying, but also a career is made in so many different ways.
Right.
And the fact that you were given that opportunity, I mean, I sang in one soundtrack one time. It was 2 hours of experience, but also it kind of got me through a lot of hard times, because every once in a while I'd get a check and I'd be like, I wasn't expecting that. And this is how you piece together a life. Right? Which is, I think, one of the things that, because we were both in places where the focus was, you need to be great at this, and then you need to be the best at it, rather than you need to get better at this, and then make a career out of whatever you make out of it because you've gotten better at this. And I think, thankfully, those of us that got out are, and I mean out as in like after we graduated and became the next generation, I think we're being much more clear with those coming up behind us that, you should go do a TBS commercial. That's flipping great. In addition to all these game tutorials or whatever I'll watch, I also watch a lot of Critical Role and all this dropout stuff. And, those people, they've made incredible lives out of making voiceovers and then doing their own thing on the side that they are passionate about.
Yeah.
And it turned out pretty well. Hello, I'm talking to one right now. you figured out something you were passionate about and you took on the world with it. I mean, come on. That's what they should be applauding you for that.
It's really interesting. And I think like that's the thing that is sometimes not stated enough, is that like I think it's healthy to want to pursue something with your whole ass and like really, really, really champion for yourself.
I love that you're using all these puns for this video.
You know what it is? It's because I've been around the internet so much in the last 4 years that I've absolutely started to like become slightly brain rotted. So the first like couple years of this thing, I really tried to be like Mr. like analysis, Mr. Very like, and as I've gotten more comfortable and felt, which is a great thing to have, but like I've really become much more slightly deranged and like slightly more myself and like very like, yeah, but absolutely. Anyway, I think there's a place, like, not to over linger on, you know, the freaking Great Mighty Pooh, but I do think that like, you know, I think that there's a place for it, and it doesn't have to be an insult, you know, or stupid or making fun of it.
To be honest, I kind of think like, let's say this Great and Mighty Pooh had a decent career doing classical singing someplace. Let's just pretend. Honestly, you don't think he's going to whatever family he has and is like, yeah, but check out this. And you know what? That family's probably like, this I like. I'll take that. That's really cool. You're in a video game. I can tell everyone I know you're in this video game. They don't know what Traviata is. They've heard of this squirrel. So, I mean, cool. Yeah. It's a credit on your resume. Fantastic. I love it. Yeah. And honestly, like I said, I've heard a lot worse singing on some of these kinds of, you know, things, and that was not bad singing.
Do you like a piece like this? Like, does this appeal to you, or you were kind of like, I mean, I feel like you're probably a pretty open-minded dude, but like when you listen to this, like, are you like, yeah, that's great, or are you like, eh?
I mean, I guess my initial reaction to it is at least it's using things I'm familiar with in the work that I do as a classically trained opera singer, and it takes these motifs, and to me, it's almost like, you know, it's like what John Gay did with opera, with the Beggar's Opera. You're just making something that is more for the groundlings than it is for the high and mighty. And I am all for that, because we want a big tent, not, you know, right. We want more audience, not less. That, to me, it may be meant for the fecal matter, but it's still valuable in its own way, you know? Yeah. John Waters, what did John Waters say? He says, only bad taste is good bad taste. So, I mean, this is good bad taste in its own fashion.
Did you ever play or see anybody play The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time?
I think I probably watched clips of it or at some point or something like that.
Yeah. There's a really fun track from it that I really like called Gerudo Valley. And
I'm familiar with the Gerudo, yes.
Yeah, of course.
The Sand People, correct? Right?
Yes,
not the Sand People.
That's right. Oh, because that's right. Because you have Breath of the Wild, but you haven't necessarily heard the music from the old. Okay, cool. That's actually great. Let's check out this track. It's very fun, and we'll just listen to one pass of it.
I think it's great. This has to have been done by a live band at some point.
Just like hundreds of covers, I'm sure.
I mean, there must be covers of this.
Yeah.
Has anyone tried writing lyrics or anything to it? I mean, that sounds like another thing that should have been done with this at some point. Sounds like it deserves lyrics.
Yeah, I feel like probably. I mean, like, what stands out to you right off the bat, especially with your experience with Breath of the Wild? Like,
well, I mean, you definitely hear the colors of like the sort of like Spanish influence, the Middle Eastern influence, so that you get from sort of the Gerudo people in the Zelda world.
Yeah.
And I really like the sort of the vibratory nature of the underpinnings of the bottom part of the tune. The blah, blah, blah. It sounds like there's some sort of mandolin or some sort of thing going on. And then the theme is really beautiful. Like that, the melodic line is so lovely. You know,
it's nice. You know, like I think it's interesting. What do you think about the momentum on the syncopation? Does that or not?
Well, I mean, I think that's. I love the subdivision. I do feel like that's where it comes off more as a how many bit game that this was, rather than, you know, I mean, obviously, were you to take this to present time, they probably have actual music playing with, you know, at least closer to what it would actually sound like. Even if it happened to be artificial, at least it would sound more like the instruments. Because of that, it comes off a little jittery to me, but that's not based on the music itself. I mean, it's impressive that somebody could program it well enough so that it could sound as close to music as that was in the first place.
Yeah.
Rather than just a bunch of bloops and bleeps. While I was listening, I was like, this reminds me of some guitar group that I used to listen to all the time. It was Gypsy Kings, but there was this other one that I would always listen to during my runs. And I can't remember the names. It was like this duo of guitarists. But I mean, I think it's absolutely gorgeous, to be completely. I think it's really beautiful. It makes you want to run the game a little bit faster, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Well, the
kind of like when you're at a restaurant and they play really fast music, so you leave.
So you leave. Yeah. You know what's cool to me about this is that, like, so this actually in the like MIDI era, so like we're talking like polygons here and stuff, and what's great is that, you know, it's probably like Koji Kondo sitting at the piano and thinking like there was a real reliance, I think there is, but less so now, but like on melodic identity. And I love how even though we have the jittery sort of constant subdivision in the bottom, we do still get that beautiful ba-da-ba-dum, ba-da-ba-dum.
Right, the melody is just lovely. Yeah, that theme is really nice. Yeah, for sure.
It's very inviting to. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, as a singer and as a performer, like how much when you're, and it obviously depends on an individual mind, but like how much would you say you're thinking about emotion and, you know, sort of conveying the feeling in your performances versus thinking about like, I don't know, like the harmonics or the, you know, the structures of how you fit into the structure of the theory of the thing. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking, for me, and it always has been this way, sometimes to the detriment of people who might have been teaching me, to me, it's always comes down to the words, and therefore it's always about the emotion to me. The composer, if they are worth their salt, has said it in such a way that I understand the mood they want based on the text and how they've said it. And so I don't really worry so much about the theory of the thing most of the time. I will be honest with you, theory was never my bag, but drama was. And when I could take a word and play with it based on the pitches that were given to me on top of that, it made me want to keep going. That was what made me want to keep going, was trying to find the relationships of that and how that made me feel and how those feelings then attached to the broader, that understanding that I may or may not have of the world as a whole, and how could we relate all of those things together. Yeah. So to me, that kind of communication is the most important thing about music. And that's why I'm glad that I'm a singer most of all, because I get to have words help me feed that music that I hear under me. So that would be my answer to that, I guess.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. And it's an interesting thing too, because like everyone's different, and like some people really vibe with harmony and the harmonics of processes. Like personally, theory like matters very little to me, so long as like the thing is like a good composer, it doesn't matter what the context is, like a good composer will be able to guide. It's actually interesting because there are people that have actually told me that they turn the music of the video game off because they don't want to be influenced by the emotional like sort of prodding that the music does, which is interesting because for me it's always like, well, I want to feel like you tell me how I'm supposed to feel, and then obviously when it was the singing thing, it's like, and then I'll sort of interpret that. But like, it's interesting that you really lean into the words, because I always felt like I really leaned into melody more. And like, if melody was present, which it always was in our case, because we got lucky with the most gorgeous music ever, like being able, like it's almost like, like take an aria like Alla Paterna Mano, right? Like from Verdi's Macbeth. Like there's something about the alla paterna mano, the way that you're going up and ascending up into the phrase. It almost feels like, yes, obviously he's saying, oh, to my, the hand of my, the father's hand and stuff. So you feel that, but then also just the way that you're climbing up into the upper register, and like, fuck, man. Yeah.
But the best part then obviously is the G to the A flat moment, where it's the mano, and you feel the pain of why he wasn't there. Yeah. And that's where the words and the music come together. And then it's like, that's why Verdi was a genius, because he saw that word and he was like, I know what I'm going to do with that word. I'm going to make the audience feel that word.
Right.
Right.
Feel the dissonance, feel the, and then
feel the dissonance.
Yeah. So cool. Well, yeah. This is a great. I'm glad you like that piece. It's just nice. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's great. It's such a fun little piece, for sure. It makes me want to run around in Gerudo Town for a lot longer.
You probably would love Ocarina of Time. If you love did you love Breath of the Wild?
I really did, but I think I loved it mostly because, I mean, it was like I could care less about what's his name. I was just like, let me go on an exploration. And no, not Link. I mean the villain. I was like, I don't need to finish this.
Ganon.
Let me just walk around. Yeah, Ganon. I was like, you do what you want. I'll get to the big bull at the end. Fine. For me, I was more like, how about I go mountain climbing today? Here we go.
Yeah. What's over here? I know. It's
exactly. What's over here? That was the great thing about those games, right? Is like you could just play forever and not do anything. Rodrigo y Gabriela, by the way. Had to look it up.
Rodrigo y
Gabriela. It's a duo of guitar players, and it reminds me a lot of that.
These were the ones that they thought you would like. So let's see.
Okay.
If Dominic doesn't like any of these, it's not my fault. For the
nice work. The buck stops not here.
That's right. So I actually, instead of going through like sort of any sort of list, I wanted to actually pivot us to stuff that recently came out. So there's a game called Hollow Knight Silksong that came out last year already. It was hotly anticipated. It had been in development for like 7 years. It kind of went radio silent for a little while. Fans were like clamoring anytime a new gameplay trailer came out, hoping it would be something related to Silksong. Hollow Knight itself had a great soundtrack, but the sequel, Silksong, I think really, really sort of elevated it. And this is a beautiful piece called Choral Chambers. What do you think?
So it's very lovely. It makes me instantly wonder what the game is about. Is it religious in nature as far as like the character himself? Like, is there some cathedral involved?
In a way, yes. Yeah, in a way.
Can you tell me more?
No, because I didn't finish it.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I can, hold on.
Like I see a thing here where he's got like a sewing pin. Is that the idea? Like he's a tailor of some sort?
Oh God, I have to. So I got.
It's okay. It's really. It's all right. I was just asking because. Oh, you did. Oh, well, don't yell at him. We don't all know the stories of these things. I was just curious because to me, then I'm like, just like we were talking about, it's like, so I hear that music and I'm like, this being is trying to fulfill some sort of holy mission to, and I guess they're sewing something. Maybe it's literally.
This takes place in something like called the Citadel, and the choral chambers is in the Citadel and Hollow Knight Silk. The chambers comprise of the majority of the Citadel structure with golden silk linen halls that bridge between the upper sectors of the massive structure. Here, I'll show you a picture.
Well, then honestly, it's perfect. Like whomever composed this, really well done, because you painted a picture to me that makes total sense when the description is read to me. That is exactly what I would want to feel. It's like sort of that Eric Whitakery sort of vibe where you have a lot of these left hanging pitches so that the reverberations can happen throughout whatever citadel we're talking. The syncopations are sort of interesting in a sort of 21st century, it's maybe sounds more innovative than it actually is, but if people aren't as fully knowledgeable about the writing of music, then they probably listen to that and like, that's really cool. Why hasn't that been done before? And you're like, well, it's been done a lot, but you're hearing it for the first time. So yes, welcome. And it's really well done music. And I imagine if you're playing through something and that's playing in the background, you're sort of getting the gravitas of the situation you happen to be in at the time. It's clearly fulfilled its mission as far as to what this piece was written for. Yeah. And therefore, I think it's a huge success. And it also shows the growth of where gaming has come when you play the Gerudo Town from the early 90s to where we are now.
I mean, I feel like it's a piece of music that is so like profoundly beautiful that you don't need context to appreciate it per se,
I would agree, and I guess the only reason I was asking for context is because that makes it even more impressive to me.
Yeah.
Is like then it says not only am I a really wonderful piece of music, but look at how well the Taylor achieved the assignment for the piece,
Well, and now that we were talking about the Citadel and I read that description, and it's interesting too because the Citadel is quite large. Have you ever played a Metroidvania? Have you ever Seen Castlevania or Metroid?
Oh yeah, I definitely did some Castlevania 2. Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
All right. So basically, do you know what a Metroidvania is then?
Metroidvania, is that like you put the Metroid character in Castlevania?
No. Have you ever heard that expression before?
No.
So a Metroidvania takes everything you know from Castlevania and Metroid as a series and combines them together.
Oh, it's fanfic.
Kind of. I mean, it's a genre that emerged out of the sort of how in Castlevania, as you explore, the map unveils itself and it's from left to right and there's all these secrets.
Yes.
So that plus well, actually, I don't know where the Metroid part comes from. I've never played a Metroid. So it takes those two things and intertwines them. And so you're still getting that left to right exploration, combat, so on and so forth. That's how Silksong is, and that's how Hollow Knight was. And what it does is there's many, many games at this point that have come out that are Metroidvanias. It's a very popular genre. Gotcha. They retain that sort of... There's always a mystery... Well, actually, you can't, not this one, but there are others that you can't actually play on your phone. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool because they essentially they're very challenging. They're very difficult. They allow for, I think, a broader range of artistic license and creativity. And so this game, for example, just so you can see it. So you play the character Lace. So Hollow Knight is in the first game, and in this case, you play the character Lace, and she is looking for basically her family, if I recall, or her mother. I can't remember. Essentially, here's the trailer for Silksong, so you can see kind of what they cooked. And this is the one from 7 years ago, which made everybody freak out.
Oh yeah. Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So, yeah. We just saw a little bit of the Citadel just then.
Oh, short.
It has this real opulence to it and stuff. So anyway, that's kind of what we're dealing with, is at least in this particular realm. Like, it's an interesting time period because there's new games that are coming out every single day, and you can kind of make whatever you want if you have the funds and the people to play it, you know?
Right.
It's a really interesting time period to be a gaming person.
I mean, it's beautiful. It kind of reminds me of like the Legends of Mim, or like all those cartoons from, you know. those,
yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I see a lot of that sort of vibe with the animation and stuff, and the colors, little American Tail type thing. So that whole like, that sort of, what was his name? The guy who broke off from Hanna-Barbera, who started his own, it was him, and he made like all those movies, and it sort of has that vibe to me. Yeah,
it's extremely artistic, and what's really interesting is that like it's actually incredibly difficult. So I actually didn't enjoy it, which is why I stopped it after like 8 hours. I was miserable. But what was cool is that I was still able, with the artistry and the creativity, you can still think it's a masterpiece and also be like, well, I can't. You know,
well, you still can enjoy the piece of music as its own thing, and you can look at that picture and be like, yeah, I see it. And then, I mean, why spend your time with something you don't enjoy?
Well, this one just came out. I want to show you some stuff that's brand new, and to kind of take a step backwards. This is a track called The Under King. And it's from a game called Absalom. And in Absalom, you remember the X-Men 2D fighting game where the beat 'em up game?
Yes.
Shredder's Revenge, TMT. Yeah. So
favorite match time. Yes, of course.
Yes. You know, you go to the arcade and put in your quarters or play with your buddies. So they basically created, there's a genre now called a roguelike, where every time you die, you actually reset. And so the game kind of never ends, and you just progressively get better. You get some power-ups, and then you get in and face it again. Or you start from scratch every single time, and you just get power-ups as you go, and those make you stronger, and then you just try to avoid dying. And so Absalom is actually a beat-em-up roguelike. Gorgeous art style, an amazing soundtrack mainly by Gareth Coker. He invited some other luminaries in the video game industry and music industry, and this is Mick Gordon, who is known for the soundtrack to Killer Instinct, which was a fighting game, and Doom, the reboot of Doom, and then Doom Eternal.
Okay.
So definitely like a very well liked and fun, just an incredibly talented composer. But so this is not classical. He's asleep right now as he's waking up. Those are his bones creaking.
show you true power.
It's an interesting song. I hadn't heard the back half of that actually.
Like in the middle, I was like, is he going to let this finish? And then I was like, I hope he lets this finish because I need to hear how this ends.
What'd you think of that piece?
Well, heavy metal elements, but is clearly a classical piece.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you know what's crazy is that like the 20s, like the Mickey Mouse,
Yeah, there's Looney Tunes going on.
yeah.
Yeah, there's also Wagner going on all over that piece.
Do you think so?
There's also some Bach going on in that piece. I mean, then you could go into like 21st century with the bone cracking and stuff. I mean, then you've almost got like sort of like Reich sort of things or Cage or something. And then I started, after I was thinking about the Wagner aspect of it, I mean, then I started looking at this poster that is in there. And I mean, you could cast a ring cycle with this cast of characters that's here. So good job, crowd, playing this. This is perfect for me to listen to. I love it. The heavy metal elements to it, I think, help as far as like what you tell me the game is about, which is awesome. But I mean, I hear more classical than I hear heavy metal. It's like it's like how Werther, they added the saxophone, right? And this they added some heavy drums and some heavy guitars and bass, but ultimately, I mean, yes, there's jazz in this, there's everything.
Yeah, it's the what's the expression, the thing,
it's Gesamtkunstwerk.
It is Gesamtkunstwerk, isn't it? I agree. You know, it's funny because like there are parts of it where near like the middle of it I was like, okay, I'm getting the sense that I know what this piece is about. And then all of a sudden it shifted again. And then you're like, oh. And then I too at the end was like, okay, what's happening here? And how is this going to end? Because,
how is it going to end?
Also, there's like a slight bit of pastiche to it. It gave me like a little bit of
absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's a pastiche of all these different styles.
Yeah.
And you could tell it was keep changing. It's like sucking you back in, and you almost think about this gameplay that you're talking about. There are probably like moments where these characters get dragged back into the center and have a heavy beatdown, and then you hear the bone crunching, and so the composer has gone out of their way to sort of like paint the picture of what you're going to be playing. Now, having said all that, this is my one thing is like, if you're hearing this a whole bunch of times while you're trying to play through this game, I think that would get overwhelming for my personal tastes. Mm-hmm. Like, I love listening to it, and it's like this for a second and just being like, let me take this in. But that's the thing about these video game sounds sometimes is like they're so repetitive that then you get into a place of like, I have heard this theme 18 times.
Yeah, of course.
I need something else happening. And so that would be my only thing about this would be like, okay, if I'm trying to level up a couple of more times, how many more times am I going to endure the bone crunching of the theme song? But as a piece of music independently of that, that's really exciting. It's really cool. It's like David T. Lill would love this, wouldn't he?
Yeah, that's true. It's an interesting thing too that you mentioned, like the idea that we live in a time period where, as you and I both know, like when we're performing, yes, we have recordings and all this other stuff, but I mean, like we're lucky that we live in a time where it isn't just going into the rafters and that's it. You hear it when you hear it, and then you may not hear it for another year because it's not what's being programmed. Whereas we live in such an interesting time where we can just pop on a record or put on a recording and that's that.
Sure.
Yeah. When did you see your first opera?
Madame Butterfly. I was 7 years old. San Francisco Opera came through a tour of my tiny town of 17,000 people because the university had them come through.
Oh, wow.
And it was my mother's favorite opera, so she wanted me to go see it. She worked at the university.
Did you have an immediate reaction to it, or what were you like, kind of like whatever?
I remember enjoying it. I remember enjoying it also because I knew my mother enjoyed it. When I went to school, I went to go do musical theater. Like that was what I wanted to do.
Me too.
Yeah. And so I did some of that, but then of course, and honestly, this is what we were having a discussion about in class yesterday. So it's interesting to bring this up again because the student who had asked this question was much more interested in that sort of genre. But when he went to school, they didn't have the outlet for him for that. And so we had to have a big discussion about that. And I guess that's why it's so interesting to listen to something like this, because what you start to realize is that there wouldn't be any of that musical theater without what came before it. And so we're basically all just fighting to find our own true voice. And I always end up thinking about George Gershwin, and then I start talking about that. And now, here's this Tin Pan Alley guy who's just doing a lot of mimicking until he finds his own voice, and we all have to do the same thing. I don't remember what the question was. However, opera wasn't really my initial draw to classical music. It was just what was fed to me, and then I fell in love with it, I guess, in sort of a Stockholm syndrome sort of way. And here we are. But to me, opera also then provided me with the opportunity to have a greater understanding of the art form that I had originally come in and to do in the first place. And then I continue to attach myself to that art form as well in whatever way that we know how. And now, thankfully here at this university, we do have a nascent musical theater program, and we're starting to grow opportunities. We have a musical industry studies program here, which I'm sure this kind of music would really feed into that. We even have a student who worked with me for a while who's in our choral area, and he has a class on video game music. So I think all these musical entries are starting to find broader ways into study, which I think will only help students and people understand how music works better to communicate whatever genre it happens to be, and that you don't have to shut yourself off to it because you haven't exposed yourself to the part you like yet.
Well, and the siloing, I mean, I talk about this a lot. Like the siloing really sucks because it's like, there's no reason. And now granted, I haven't played you any like orchestral pieces yet, but like, it doesn't really make sense why we are sequestering. And I think that this is like such a classical music problem where we have classical music is legitimate. And so we have to put it, and obviously that's changing, but you still kind of sense it in the air a little bit. The vibes.
We spend too much time apologizing for what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's the problem.
There's almost like a bit of insecurity with classical music where if you were to combine it with film and video game music and bring it together, then all of a sudden you're merging audiences and also merging interests, and then you're exposing people instead of like, here's the classical music concert, it's very serious, and then here's the video game concert, it sells out, it's amazing, people love it, but then they don't come to this where it's like if you just
at the same time, I agree with you, and we all have to find these audiences, and we also have to accept that some audiences aren't going to be found, and that there are certain niches, and thankfully we live in a time where actually niche is the way you go.
Yeah.
My dad goes to the symphony every concert in Charleston, West Virginia. Mm-hmm. And the other day he was kind of telling me, he was like, I don't know if I really want to go. It's Harry Potter concert. I sit in the front row and there's an illusionist and I don't really want to learn all these tricks while I'm sitting in the front row. And I was like, Dad, you don't have to go to this concert just because somebody gave you tickets. Like my guess is, and I told him, I was like, a lot of the themes you're going to hear, you're going to have heard in every other classical concert you've gone to this season. That crowd is probably going to be full because you're absolutely right. People are going to go because they know the name Harry Potter and they like John Williams, but they like John Williams because they don't know they like Strauss, and they like John Williams because they don't know they like Wagner, and they like John Williams because they don't know about all this other stuff that John Williams loved and then wrote stuff to movies that everybody got to see. This is true of what I was telling my kid yesterday too. Like he should go and make as much money as he can writing the music that he likes to write. Like write for some of this stuff where there's a market, but then there also have to be those that don't have the market that are trying to make new tastes so that those people can then be robbed from, I suppose, but also be borrowed from so that they can have new things come around too. And it's just a constant cycle. And we just have to keep feeding it.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I mean, it's an interesting dynamic because I mentioned this a lot, but I went to a concert in DC where it was a video game music concert, and they were like, "We came to you, now you come to us." And I was like, I feel like that's the wrong way to go about it because they're probably saying we came to you, so like come to the symphony and like enjoy something that's not a video game piece. But at the same time, like. To me it's like whatever gets you in the door. Like you and I both started with musical theater and then fell in love with opera, so why can't we also fall in love with video game music if we're classical fans, or why can't we fall in love with classical music if we're video game music fans? Like there's no
and rather than be guilted into it, maybe be approached and said, don't you want to try something else because you like
this is badass, this is super fucking cool, like, just give it a second.
Exactly,
give it a second and you might enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, there's a creator who I really admire who went to see an opera and he clearly didn't have a good time, and I was like, well, which opera did you see? Because I mean, like, not all operas are created equal, just like no video game is created equal. And it's interesting how like it's just such a dance, and I just find it endlessly interesting. That's all. There's
for sure.
So you actually liked this track.
I loved it.
I've been tasked with trying to explain this track to you. So Monster Hunter is a game where you fight monsters, and it's very like a white knuckle experience. You're really you're you fight, basically you're fighting these giant dinosaurs with special abilities, and you have like a variety of weaponry to choose from. It's challenging, it's difficult, it really pushes you to your limits, and you have opportunities for success. You also have opportunities to cart and fail, and being carted means you get your health bar goes all the way down, and you end up on this cart, and they drag you back to base camp until you get back up and try, and you have 3 tries, and it's timed. And so it's pretty exciting. And it has a very like old school game philosophy, but in a modern era, especially in these, they've sort of modernized the approaches. But this particular track is none of those things. This is the ending credits of Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. And I don't know how clued in you are with anime or weeb culture or any of that stuff. Okay. Well, I said I wasn't sure if I was going to play this for you, but then the folks that were in my live stream said that I should and try to explain this. But it's very, is the word I'm looking for kawaii? It's like very like, well, you'll hear it. I mean, it's fine.
I think I'm gathering what I'm going to get here, and it's probably like just antithetical to the game entirely, and it's sort of like
it's the end credits, so it's kind of like celebration kind of stuff. Well, listen, I don't know. I barely heard it, so we'll listen to it.
Let's hear it.
Let's judge it. That's the motif. Oh my God. I think we got the idea.
That's the thing about these credits. They go on forever. Do I like that? I see its value. It makes me think of being 11 and watching ABC on Friday.
It's a little bit.
It's very TGIF.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like we can automatically be like, "Oh, great job, you did it." That's really like the theme, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, like I'm pretty like agreeable to most things, but I'm not sure that this. And I'm like deep into my like weeb anime phase right now. Like I have a bookshelf back here full of manga, and like I'm all about Japanese culture, but in like the vibes. But this particular sound, I find kind of grating, and it's
certainly. If they wanted you to read all the credits, this was not the song to choose, because eventually you're going to be like, I get it. And I don't know that I'm going to read the rest of these names.
Right.
Which is how I feel in a lot of credit situations. So, I mean, it's suitable.
But it's cute, though. It works. Like, it's charming.
Sure. It's charming. Yeah, for sure.
But I'm good.
I don't want to listen to it consistently, but it's charming. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny how music can be like that, though, right? Like, sometimes you're like, I admire this and I respect it for what it's doing, but I never want to hear it again.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I think we have to have pieces like that, because there's probably somebody out there who's like, this is my jam. I don't know what your problem is, and I'm going to dress like the one on the left. I mean, that's okay. It's really okay. It's not, it doesn't have to be for us, you know?
I think too, what's interesting is that like, there's a lot of people that probably feel that way about opera, because either
for sure.
But it's funny though, is that like, have you sung a lot of Strauss?
Not a lot of it. I mean, in a lot of his songs, not a lot of the opera. I'm trying to think. I've been in Salome a lot of times.
Well, so you know how like Strauss has like a very particular kind of sound. Like it's very sophisticated writing, obviously, but it's very jarring to listen to if you're used to bel canto.
Well, then which version of Strauss are you listening to,
true.
right? It's like,
That's true.
you're listening to early stuff, or you're listening to later when he sounds a little bit more standard versus what he started with, right?
It's just,
I mean, Zalme and Elettra are crazy, but then like what's the face? Die Frau und Schatten is like absolutely spectacular.
yeah, it's true. It's huge too, isn't it? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Have you sung that, Die Frau und Schatten?
No.
That's massive.
It's a huge piece. It's the best I've ever seen the Met used. Did you ever see it at the Met?
I've never seen it, period.
When they do it at the Met, they use literally every ounce of that stage. It floats up, it floats down, like everything is used. And it is the most incredible production. My wife was in it. That's when we were first dating, actually. It was like early in our relationship, and she was in the pit, so I went to go see it. And I've never seen a space like the Met, which is enormous,
colossal,
used so perfectly, because they literally used every piece of real estate they have on that theater.
Wow.
And it's like finally a piece that's actually built for this building.
That's building.
Yeah.
Not Elixir of Love.
No.
Well, what I find interesting is that like when I first was listening to Ariadne of Naxos one year it was for some, I think it was Glimmerglass, and I had like a line as like the chief of police, whatever the hell the character is. And I remember literally like no joke, dude, the very first notes, I closed the book and I said, nope, I'll come back to this. And obviously, eventually I had to come back to it because I had to learn the lines. But it was one of those things where I felt the same way with a lot of Britain as well, where it was, whether it was songs or the operas themselves, where it just did not register that was possible. But then what's interesting is that, and you know this, but as time goes on, it's like I bet you if we listen to that 30 times right now, well, we'd either get really annoyed or we would actually like start to embrace it. And I find exposure such an interesting thing.
So I'm going to suggest, at least from my end, if I listened to this 30 times, I would be bouncing off the walls. I'm not sure I would get too happy about it. I would probably get like, okay, I'm in an insane asylum, as opposed to maybe Ariadne of Naxos. Although I will say about Ariadne of Naxos, and I'm glad you got back to it, but the best part about Ariadne of Naxos to me is that it's also Strauss sort of showing that whole point, because the opera that the composer has written is not good. And that's the whole joke. And so you get to the back half of Ariadne and you're like, this is what the composer was talking about the whole first act, because this is actually a horrible piece. And the clowns come in and sort of save it. But that's the whole beauty of that opera, is like, it's Strauss actually saying, yeah, some of this stuff isn't very good.
It's funny,
and I love
don't
that
understand the bit, because that's such a
I know
bit.
It's so perfect, and it's so Strauss, because I mean, well, we can talk about Strauss in a lot of problematic ways. However, his understanding of theater and drama is definitely second to none, and that's one of the best. And of course, the libretto, Hofmannsthal, right?
Yes.
I think so. But I mean, like that again, this incredible libretto. So I mean, I'm not going to say that I'll say the same about the Monster Hunter final ensemble here. However, if you describe the game to me, and you at the end you get to have this joy, I suppose that for nothing else, it's worth it to get through the game just to know that you're going to be bouncing off the walls after you've destroyed these monsters.
However, what's really cool is that each monster has their own theme, more or less, and some of the
oh, that's cool. And do they appear in this?
Not in the ending credits, no. But I'm going to play you an example. That'd be hilarious. There is an example of one of the more recent games has a Dracula. So some of there's 3 monsters that are based off of like Hollywood horror movie monsters. So like Golem is a Frankenstein, Luna Garen is a werewolf, and then Malzeno is a vampiric entity. And I just want to play you he's my favorite, but I want to play you just half of his theme so you can hear like what some of these actually end up sounding like. Not this, although this is fine. It's kind of a jokey piece, but also just like worth pointing out that this exists, obviously. But here's Malzeno, and you can also see what he looks like too.
Whoa, yeah, that's not what I was expecting.
Yeah. and that'll just loop, and it just plays that until you beat him, and it's yeah. Did you like that?
I mean, it's a very cool piece, and also way more fitting to what you said the game was about. So really, the end is kind of like a joke's on you. This is all you're going to get.
Just for that game, I don't even know why that it is even in that game, to be honest. Because a lot of the other theme songs, a lot of the other end credits are actually quite beautiful and very, very reflective. I think that one it's more just like a little bit of a playful thing. But yeah, in general, this is the kind of sound that you can expect.
I mean, that's very cool. I wish I knew what they were saying.
Yeah, I don't know.
They probably not are. They may not even be saying anything. Is the thing. Yeah.
All right,
but it's cool.
Oh, I wanted to play you this. So this is from a horror game called Silent Hill. And
I've heard of that game.
Yeah, and there's many iterations. The most recent one, Silent Hill F, is really beautiful. They tend to deal with Silent Hill 2, deals with grief and with death, and I mean they all deal with death, and like a lot of them end up becoming like deep psychological profiles. Like Silent Hill 2, the enemies end up being like amalgamations of like the own personal struggle. So like there's nurses in Silent Hill 2 that are very like that kind of sexy looking, but they have knives, and they represent some sort of like it's really complicated, but essentially all of the characters and all the enemies that you face, they're all sort of to do with the psychological state of our main character that we play as. And I think that's really cool because it's not just jump scares, although there's plenty of that, but it's also like a look at like what does it mean to be selfish in grief? What is grief? What is how do we process these things? And I thought about, if I were to ever make a game, it would be in the format of Silent Hill, but dealing with all my trauma of opera, and like, a monster with nothing but mouths and teeth and tongue, and like, what to deal with like the placement of the voice, and like, the old conductor, the old creepy hunched over conductor with the long nails to be the batons, and like deformity and stuff. Anyway, I've gone to therapy. So this is what's cool about this is that Akira Yamaoka is a fantastic composer, and there are some really interesting ballads, but there also is a lot of ambient distortion and like really using steel and this kind of sound design around music. But I wanted to play you just one of the songs because I just find them kind of appealing. This is called Acceptance. The singer is actually one of the actors in the game. She's also you probably know, she was the voice director for The Legend of Vox Machina, who I think features in The Mighty Nine. She's the voice director.
Yeah.
You said you like Critical Role.
Yeah. What's the name?
Her name is Mary Elizabeth McGlynn.
Oh, his name sounds familiar. Yeah, cool. Well, maybe I'll recognize the voice.
Time flows, nobody knows. The years go by. Where we go alone from here. Night falls, strange color walls. My eyes deceive. What is wrong with me? Deep in the night you think everything's right. Tell it to yourself. Say it's just a nightmare. Something is telling you nothing can change where you are again. Why should it matter? Your dreams of a child, innocence is gone. Only fear to play with. Faces are changing, but nothing is changing the pain. Too late. Two steps and one more breath I take sends me further back. Ah, over and over it calls to your soul. Say it isn't so. Emptiness surrounds you. No one can help if the angels refuse to come here. Who's there? Cold faded photos, they lay by your side. Something in my room, never mind the reason. Visions are lying and reasons just live to survive. This time, the cold, the cold, the light, the fear returning. It's not the eyes. You feel that's chilling.
What do you think of that?
It was kind of like if Andrew Lloyd Webber and Evan Ethelens became one thing to me.
Is that good or bad?
Not my cup of tea. It almost felt like there was too much vocal acting going on.
Ah,
And so I
was gonna
loved-
ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like maybe pick two times to give me that much glottal crying in the middle of a line rather than every time you go to that moment. And maybe not so many harmonies. Only because I think that would more effectively carry the words through and would maybe more effectively give me a sense of the fear and silence the character is dealing with in the game, because it felt like there were too many voices. It's like, well, why are you scared? You're surrounded by people. You've got all your friends with you.
I suppose it does somewhat sound melodramatic in that regard. Like it does feel.
And it should, I suppose, right? But to me, it's like this seems overproduced.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting piece. You know, it's this. I think the second time I've heard it, and it's not that it's not that it's bad. It's not that it's a badly written piece or anything like that. It's just that it just feels like it kind of drones on. And I think I do like the harmonies. I think the harmony is interesting when it first comes in.
The harmony works. It just keeps building. And it's like, what if we didn't? What if you left people wanting more rather than giving them everything?
Yeah.
So there you go. I didn't like them all perfectly. I'd rather have the heavy metal one. That one was awesome.
Yeah, okay, fair. There's this really good game called Vampire, which is about a vampire.
Oh, surprise.
More complicated than that, but yeah, I know, right?
Oh, good.
But I heard this track today, and I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. I wonder if you'll like it.
Cool.
It's called Insane Family.
Oh, my. All right.
Jesus. What do you think of that piece?
I liked a lot of that. I think I liked it more as it went along.
Yeah.
I would have maybe gotten rid of some of the
beginning.
I just the bass part. Like I would have kept some of the drums, but maybe gotten rid of some of the other. Like it almost felt like they were trying to force your attention, and I don't think they needed to force it because the violin part was quite effective actually, and as it went along, got even to me more effective. And I think if they had simplified the bass line, it kind of just felt like they were again. That's part of probably the game thing too, where it's like you'll look, and that's great. But I think as a piece of music, it probably didn't need it as much as that.
No, I totally agree with you. Like I hadn't heard all of it. I heard the middle section. I was like, wow, this is so virtuosic. And that was really the thing that kind of stuck out to me is that you know what it felt like? It felt like falling into madness.
Yeah. I've certainly heard pieces like that with violin that are just so effective, outside of a game composition. So, I mean, the fact that game composition is having the confidence to take that on and say, here, listen to this. I mean, that's fantastic,
It's actually one of the few violin pieces that I've heard in video games that's like very heavy. I mean, there's tons of violin music, but it's very like pressed into itself in this, which is really interesting. Like, you're really pushing that, pressing into that violin and really, really emphasizing the oomph to it. Oh, I have to play this. This is a tenor aria.
Oh, fantastic. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Now we're speaking our language.
I know. This is God Shattering Star from Fire Emblem Three Houses. Yeah. It's like 18 high A's.
It's a little like Granada.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And then it kind of continues, but that's the main thrust of that main idea.
It's interesting, like they edited that because that opening bit was like, there's no way that voice is getting to the top because it's so guttural.
Yeah.
And then it switched, and you're like, okay, they added it. Fine. But I mean, impressive both ways. I love the color of the guy's voice. I mean, that stuff at the bottom, very cool, very guttural, like sort of guttural and sort of interesting. But then the top was really exciting. But yeah, it reminded me a little bit of like that old Wunderlich recording, Granada.
Get it on all.
Have you listened to that in a while? Man, oh man.
Not his.
Granada in German, and he sounds like Italian the whole time. It is an incredible recording.
God, I love Fritz Wunderlich. He's so good.
Oh,
do you like
stupid
this?
stairs? Do I like this?
Damn alcoholism, I know. As no one understands that reference. Fritz Wunderlich was drunk and fell down the stairs. The shoes were untied. He was drunk and he fell down the stairs and died. It's horrible. Super tragedy for the music world. I mean, God, it's just one of the.
Who knows what we missed?
Yeah, one of the greatest tenors ever made. My God. So, I mean, like as an aria though, like, does that seem legitimate to you? Like, could you imagine that on the stage somewhere?
Why not? I've heard worse. Song worse.
I've sung worse. Yeah, I felt. Felt.
I mean, again, is it worth 4 minutes? I don't know. I'd have to hear the whole thing. Is there a change, or are we just repeating over and over again? And then maybe we edit a little bit. But is it worthy of the stage? Yeah, for sure. Now tell me how it's set. Is he dressed as the dragon? What's his character? Like, I mean, but yeah, is as a piece of music, could it be on a stage? Sure, I'd buy that. I'd get a ticket.
Yeah, it's also really cool because he's a villain, and how often do tenors get to ever be villains? Very rarely.
Well, I mean, I was Don José last weekend, so it happens every once in a while.
Don José's not a villain. He's a tragic, flawed character.
If that's what you think of murderers.
Wait, you think Don José's a villain? Full stop.
Oh, he's a villain.
He's the villain of the story. We just see it from his perspective.
I think he's the villain of that story. Here's my favorite thing about what happened at this production we just did last week.
Yeah,
Marco, my Don José got laughed at a good deal of the time in Act 3. The character was getting laughed at because he's a putz. And he can't go attack Escamillo because they kept holding him back, and he kept like just taking it until the 4th act when he's like, I'll show you what happens when you all laugh at me. Yeah. And so to me, when I think of Don José, I like that guy is a villain. He's dark man. And Escamillo's not a great guy. Neither is Carmen. Like there's no heroes here.
Yeah, there's no heroes.
But Don José is definitely the villain of that story. Yeah.
It's so interesting. Like, yeah, because I mean, I've sang that enough times to really have like an understanding of it, and it's interesting how he really just needs his mom. You know, like he really just needed like better parenting, and like
he needed some therapy. That's for if nothing else. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But he doesn't get it, and when he gets a no, he doesn't take the no.
Well, and also too like how fast. Now, granted, opera moves at like 10 times speed, but the fact that like. Once he discovers Carmen and he like snaps into like, oh, I want to be with her. That's it. Like there's no.
That is my biggest pet peeve with that opera as a whole is like, and everybody knew the novel, so they were just going by the story they'd already read. I'm sure that happens with this kind of stuff too. But in the first act, like the turn from I'm in love with Michaela, I love you too, mom, to this flower's really intoxicating to take me anywhere, Carmen, I'll do anything for you is too fast.
Yeah.
So it's hard as those who portray him to give him the proper subtext to make that work.
Emotional flavoring.
It's very hard to do that. I mean, there are lots of questions with that piece as far as the pacing and stuff. However, having said that, Don José is the villain. Absolutely. Full stop. In my opinion.
Word. Are you a big D&D player?
You know, got a funny story real quick.
You know
since we were doing
roles,
10 minutes.
So I mean, I just...
Yeah. I played D&D when I was in high school with a group of friends. I brought props one day, and they all looked at me funny, and they were like, props? Come on, man. And I was like, you know we're all doing theater, right? This what this is. And at that point, I was like, fine, I'm out. So that was the end of my D&D time. But I played Shadowrun, and we played Cyberpunk. So I did those two.
Oh, okay.
And in the D&D vein. But when I brought props, apparently I had like broken the covenant of my group of guys. So, that was the end of my D&D
Wait
time.
a second. Shadowrun is its own game?
It was like its own version of, like, it was a D&D sort of breakdown. Shadowrun and Cyberpunk, these two different like offshoots.
Because wait a second. They're both inspired by, so Cyberpunk is both, wait. Okay, I was going to play you something from D&D, but now I got to play you something from Cyberpunk 2077. So this is called The Rebel Path. And so Cyberpunk 2077 is, God, this is really going to bother me. Cyberpunk 2077 is a video game from 2020. It's based off of Mike Pondsmith's Cyberpunk tabletop game series.
Correct.
So that's what you played.
That was one of the things I played.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then this is the video game based off of that series.
Great. With Keanu Reeves in that game, right?
Yes. Okay, so you're aware of its existence.
Yes.
Have you heard music from it?
No.
Okay, cool. Let's check this out. So this is The Rebel Path.
Right.
This is fun. What's that feel like, considering you played the board game?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a board
Not
game.
board
It was an
sorry.
RPG.
I meant
RPG.
table. I meant tabletop.
Yeah,
I mean board game.
Talking about board games, we're going in a whole different direction. Happy to talk about that too. To me, it's very fitting. I mean, it's this sort of Blade Runner-esque sort of like starts with organic sounds of the cello and then moves straight into sort of the synth. You know, it's as it should be, and it's got the repetitive nature of someone who's running around the streets in a game that I know has had its issues, considering they didn't finish it well, and so you probably feel like you're running around blind streets anyway. And I guess my one question while I was listening to it was like, so why is it called The Rebel Path? What is rebellious about this?
Johnny Silverhand is bombing Arasaka Tower
While this plays,
yeah, he's got
a little Fight Club element.
Yeah,
to it.
exactly. Yeah. But also to your point, like in the beginning with the violin stuff, like what actually is kind of interesting is that obviously you know the world of cyberpunk a little bit, so pretty well. So you know that like we're replacing our bodies, we're mutating, we're augmenting ourselves, and so what ends up, and I think it's interesting you mentioned it, is that the cello, as it dies away, we replace it with a synthetic in the augmentation, and so we actually move that humanity from our being, which is, it's cool,
right? Yeah, I mean it's very cool piece. I think it works really well for that game. Did you play that game? How was it?
So they've really fixed it, and it's really good now. I always start it and then I can never finish it. I always get like after the introduction, and then the pacing kind of dips a little bit. It's not a world that I tend to be too optimistic for the cyberpunk aesthetic personally.
Yeah, I always preferred Shadowrun myself when we were talking about these two RPGs.
Fair.
Yeah, the robot stuff sort of like, I'd rather not hope that we do that, but then, that's us.
Granted, I feel like 2 hours went by really fast, Dominic. I thought that we had a lot more time. So I had all these songs prepared. This is your kind of first taste of listening to music from games besides Breath of the Wild in years and years and years. And I suppose that's your biggest takeaway, if anything, from listening to this stuff.
Well, I mean, it's certainly advanced from where I knew it to be. I mean, obviously the Breath of the Wild stuff, it's pretty repetitive. And I think by design, all video game music has to be slightly repetitive because you're trying something over and over again, and you're trying to get better at it. And so the thing the thing that's interesting to me is listening to them independently like this, knowing what the storyline might be, but also starting to hear it in with more of a value of like, how about as a piece of music, what's the form, what's the function, what are the motives, and then how does the composer use them? So looking at them more like we might, analyze a classical piece in my hallways here. It's an interesting sort of thought process. And I do think some of that happens here as well. Like I said, I think there's a video music game class that is probably currently meeting these days. Actually, I think the teacher, I mentioned him to you a number of times. I think he had heard your name. But I think it's really fascinating to listen to this stuff independently. And I mean, I probably am going to keep that. What's the one, the heavy metal one? That one is going to stick in my head for a while. The Absalom. That piece is cool. And I mean, they were all great, but I mean, particularly that one, I think just because of the bombastic nature of it, but also the tie to so many different styles of music, to me, that is what music should be about, is like inviting everyone into the room and saying, what do you like? Let's see how we all can make it work together and make the best piece at the end of it, which is what opera is too, ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to your point, it's true. And video games have their limitations. Video game music has its limitations. At the same time, I do think that we so often don't analyze it or don't give it its flowers and present it as a piece and be like, hey, look, what are its flaws? What are its positives? How is this piece? Is it fun? Do you enjoy it? And in doing so, I think it gives us an opportunity to, at the very least, whether or not we ever say, I don't want to listen to video game music out of context because I prefer the context and I prefer that moment, that's fine. But I think it's a healthy and valuable and frankly a responsibility for video game enjoyers to be like, okay, well, what is this music and what is it doing and how is it serving me when I play? Or better yet, how is this music then able to be transported to a different venue and be appreciated in a concert hall or, whatever. And so, I think, I appreciate you coming on and, giving it its flowers and it was fun also for me to discover some of these pieces. Like I never listened to the end of that track that we liked, the mid-chord song track. So I was like, oh, this is actually way more interesting than I anticipated it to be because I thought it was just going to repeat for the next 4 minutes and it didn't, so.
Yeah.
That's the beauty.
Well, it's a pleasure. It's been, like I was mentioning with the opera survey class, I'm glad that you're here to sort of give people a broad sense of the scope of these sorts of pieces so that you can walk around with that knowledge and then use that knowledge to give yourself a benefit in other fields as well.
True. And you never know, you might
liberal arts.
That's right. And who knows, you might decide to grab another system at some point that doesn't involve Zelda totally sucking your life away from you.
Yeah, I should probably do that at some point for sure. Yeah.
Well, listen, Dominic, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you everybody for watching. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you later. Bye, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Bye.